Hello, everybody. Hello. Happy Wednesday. It is the three of us, the three amigos, the terrific trio, back in action here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. You can see us. If you're listening, well, you'll hear us in a second. It's Andrea Llanes, a.k.a. Ajicita, Jose Armando, a.k.a. Cinco, a.k.a. Island Jose, a.k.a. all the other nicknames we have for him. And, of course, yours truly, Franco Panizo, on the number one Inter Miami Focus podcast, where we provide you all the news, opinions, analysis, inside information, general punditry, and much more. We have a lot to talk about because, well, Inter Miami is officially out of the League's Cup. Their title defense came to a close in the round of 16 at the hands of the Columbus Crew. A lot to talk about in that game, and a lot of it focuses, as you can imagine, as you can guess based on the title of this week's show, head coach Tata Martino, el Tete, the technical director, as it would be translated in Spanish. Before we get into it, all the pleasantries, and I'm going to start with Jose this time because he is the reason why we are late this week.
Because I've
Our
been waiting
diva.
for you guys for like 15 minutes here, waiting for you guys to log on, and man, every week. No, I was late. But thank you guys for waiting for me. It's gonna be worth it. I promise.
Okay, let's see. Ajicito, maybe. All right. Andrea, how are you this week?
Hi, Franco. Hi, Jose. I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to tackle like crazy because listen, I was talking with Jose. I was telling him a lot of stuff that I already forgot that I was going to say in this podcast. I already forgot half of it, but I'm gonna try to remember, and we need to talk about it because listen, I used to be very hard on Phil Neville. I am very hard with Tata, but I'm curious to hear your opinions on his job, on his performance, and the performance of Inter Miami. If we have the same opinions, if we have the same standards, and hopefully we do because we were very harsh. Well, I was very harsh with Phil, and I keep the same standard, and it's time. We talked about a little bit about this with some players last week, but it's time to keep talking because Inter Miami is eliminated yet again of another competition. So
I think Andrea just did this a whole lot. Said Phil Neville, said players. She just beat around the bush a whole lot without getting to the point. Without entrando al grano. Anyway.
Okay, el grano, Inter Miami is eliminated yet again. So
Yet again. Okay.
Yet again. Yes.
All right. Well, we will sink our teeth into Inter Miami's elimination, Tata Martino's role in all of it, and what that means for the rest of the season and the rest of the year. Of course, if you're new here, if you're old, if you're young, new, fresh, stale, anything in between, give us a like, a follow, a share, a subscribe, a review, both written on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Helps us out tremendously. And I'm not going to repeat this every week, but we're very close to the number. As soon as we hit the number, I'm raffling away some shorts or one pair of shorts of the pink shorts to a lucky listener or viewer. I'm looking forward to that. And then you can send us a video of you receiving the shorts. I don't know, but we'll figure that out later on. All right. Plenty to talk about on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. And we will, of course, start with Inter Miami's 3-2 road loss to the Columbus Crew in the round of 16. I keep saying quarterfinals. Round of 16 of the 2024 League's Cup. Inter Miami's title defense is over. Se acabó. No repeat champions in the League's Cup. Inter Miami still waiting for some hardware this year, which is of note because we will dive into that later this year. Jose, I'm going to start with you because you promised some good stuff. So we're going to start with you. But don't get ahead. Don't do the traditional Jose move of jumping ahead to 5 topics from now. Stay on the topic at hand, my friend. Let's focus on Inter Miami's elimination. They lost. We will get into everything. We'll analyze the game como siempre, like always. But as far as the game goes and the elimination, your initial immediate takeaways in the aftermath of a game that Inter Miami led 2-0 in, was looking good, and then things just unraveled in a span of 10, 12, 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, I think it was a tough situation for Inter Miami, regardless, in this tournament because even if they were to win this tournament, I don't think we'll put too much credit into it. And now that they are not winning it, we're obviously thinking about, the repercussions that this could have as of how successful can Inter Miami be this year. I think it is disappointing, especially because of the way it happened. They have a two-goal lead. Um, it was pretty clear that Tata setup did work initially, but you kind of have to give credit to Columbus and to Wilfred Nancy because he was able to adjust during halftime. Even though they conceded the second goal early in the second half, they still follow the game plan that they had for the second half, and it did work for them. It obviously was beneficial to them that they were playing at home. I think it would have been a different scenario if that was a road game. But at the end of the day, that's that they were a home team based on the rules, and they deserve to be a home team. So I think it's disappointing. It's disappointing, but regardless, it was a tough situation for Inter Miami in Leagues Cup.
Andrea, you also just gave us a nice little soft intro into the game, which I didn't ask him for a whole lot there. I asked him for a little bit more, but I don't know. He said he had a lot to say. I don't know. Not off to a good start, Jose. Not off to a good start. Very Columbus Crew-esque of you. Maybe you'll rally. Andrea, did Inter Miami lose this game, or did the Columbus Crew win this game? And obviously, Columbus Crew won
Columbus
3-2.
Crew won this game. Wilfred Nancy toyed with Tata because Tata Martino at the beginning toyed with him because Tata Martino surprised him with his change of tactics and his high pressure. So he surprised Wilfred Nancy. But as Jose was saying, when Wilfred Nancy made those changes at the beginning of the second half, it was the beginning of the end for Tata Martino and Inter Miami. And then Tata Martino couldn't come back when he needed to. He didn't read the game as well as Wilfred Nancy did, and I think
So there's more merit in the Columbus Crew coming back than
yes, definitely, because Inter Miami couldn't respond when Columbus Crew and Wilfred Nancy adjusted and made adjustments at the beginning of the second half. You could see a change in the team. And when they scored the first goal, you knew that they were coming back. And Tata Martino couldn't read that, and the changes that he made, the first change that he made it even worse because he took Matias Rojas off because he was tired. But that change didn't help a lot. And he didn't change tactics when he should have changed tactics. And then they tied the game, and then they won the game. And I believe it was all Columbus merit because Inter Miami didn't do anything. Tata Martino and Inter Miami didn't do anything else. Once they were out of the script that was planned for the beginning of this game, they couldn't respond. They didn't have ideas. And when I mean Tata and the players didn't have ideas, didn't have solutions, they didn't have anything. And if you want to go even more deeper, he when he needed to change Luis Suarez because it was obvious that Luis Suarez wasn't able to go on, he didn't do it as early as he should have. So there's a lot of blame here for Inter Miami, a lot of mistakes, but I think those mistakes were because Columbus and Wilfred Nancy especially were better than Tata Martino in yesterday's game.
I don't disagree with that last part. But if I have to divvy up, just like a goal, right? You give credit to the attackers, and then there's obviously some blame on the defenders. So there's breakdowns, right? So it's of course beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Everybody sees it differently. I disagree with you. I think Inter Miami lost this game. You're up 2-0 on the road. Yes, you're playing a very good team that's at home, but you should have seen that out. You should have seen that out, or at least taking it to penalty kicks at 2-2. And they could do neither one. They instead give up the lead, and they fall behind 3-2, and they never come back from that. For me, Inter Miami lost this game. And Inter Miami lost this game because of some of the things you touched on, including Tata Martino's reactionary game management. It wasn't, anticipating what was happening on the field. After they give up the first goal, make a change, adjust, because you saw that Columbus was starting to gain momentum. Now, Tata Martino, to paint a well-rounded picture, I asked him after the game about that. He didn't make substitutions until, he made one substitution, like I said, Julian Gressel for Matias Rojas. El único cambio hasta el minuto 80. The only substitution until the 80th minute. But at that point, it was 3-2. At that point, he was forced to make changes because Inter Miami was trailing and they needed to find something to try to salvage a result. And, well, they couldn't. And they are eliminated from the Leagues Cup as a result. So, for me, Inter Miami lost this game, and a lot of the blame goes on the shoulders of Tata Martino for me in this one. And you said at the beginning of the show, we were harsh on Phil Neville. I mean, if Tata Martino deserves the same type of criticism, it'll come in time. Up to this point, I don't think he's merited that. But in this game, in this moment, yes, the spotlight's on him.
For me, he totally deserves it, because you can say Inter Miami plays well in MLS, and it's what we talked at the beginning of the season, and why you had a fight with Jose and I and me, however you said it, because you said that MLS was the most important thing, blah, blah, blah. And we said the most important thing is the international champions. So when it counted, Inter Miami choked. They choked against Monterrey terribly here. They choked against Monterrey terribly in Monterrey, haciendo el ridículo.
No.
After we
didn't choke against Monterrey. They didn't choke.
Yes, they did, man. They lost 3-0 con un baile tremendo. In Monterrey, didn't you? Do you remember that game?
They lost 3-1.
Well,
and they were already behind on aggregate.
Exactly. So the most important, from their mouth, the most important game of their year, Tata said, "Oh, this is the most important tournament." Then they tried to wash it out, saying, "No, we tried to compete. It's the beginning of the season." So no, for me, the two games that Tata Martino was facing elimination, he did terribly.
Stay on this game.
He did terribly. So there's no excuse to say, oh, you cannot compare to Phil Neville, because the two games that Tata Martino faced elimination this year, he did terribly.
I only have a credit card that's red, so red card for Andrea. Andrea, we will get to Tata Martino and the overarching themes with Tata Martino this year. But we're talking about this game for now. This game. Focus on this game. For me,
yes, this game
Jose, please tell me.
Tactics were terrible.
Jose, please agree with me here that Inter Miami lost this game. Yes, Columbus Crew won. Inter Miami lost. Yes, okay. That in the grand scheme of things, yes. If you want to look at it in black and white, but my point is, what had more responsibility in this result? Was it Inter Miami blowing the lead, or Columbus Crew just being so darn good that they came back and won this game? Because for me, it's Inter Miami lost this game. Had Tata Martino reacted sooner, had he made a change, then Inter Miami maybe could have halted that Columbus Crew rally. Again, as William Vargas in the comment section says, 3 goals in 13 minutes is embarrassing last night.
Totally. So just
it could have been. To me, it could have been managed better. To me, and Tata deserves blame.
I think you both are speaking the truth, and although it seems like you guys are not on the same page, you guys are on the same page, because you're both giving credit to each other at the same time, because you're both saying like that Columbus, you Frank are saying that Columbus had great momentum. Why did they have good momentum, and why were they able to overcome the 2-goal deficit? Well, because they had a good game plan. So they executed that good game plan, so there's credit into that.
Are you ready for office, Jose? Are you ready for office? You're being very diplomatic here.
No.
It's a simple question. Did Inter Miami blow this game, or did the Columbus Crew win this game because they're that good?
I would give more credit to Columbus for the way they reacted. Yeah, I would give a lot more credit to Columbus, and especially because, in the first half, with the high pressure from Inter Miami, it did seem like Columbus, they were so intimidated by the high press that they were constantly losing the ball. So
the first goal comes as a result of that.
Yeah, it was surprising how bad they were, reacting to the high press. And so in the second half, they not only overcome the Tata's game plan, but also they understood mentally that if they were to compete with Inter Miami, then they really had a chance and that they were favorites coming into this game. And, so I give them a lot of credit for that. I give them a lot of credit. And, most of the credit really is not necessarily to the players, but to the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff won the game for Columbus last night.
So I agree with you that Tata Martino was outcoached overall in this one, right? Like
I think in the second half.
And right, let's overall,
Yeah.
right? Because the final result also, factors into the analysis. Now, if we look at the whole picture, Tata Martino won that first half. He won the chess match, right? High pressed the Columbus Crew. Inter Miami had a 1-0 lead. 1-0 lead is not the healthiest lead in the world, but Columbus didn't really generate almost anything in the attack in that first half. I think if I'm not mistaken, they finished with 0 shots on target. There was the one Diego Rossi shot from just inside the penalty area that he probably should have done better on, but Capuro, he rushed his shot and shot it over the crossbar.
Mucho's header was that one that I remember.
But
that Drake stop. Very little.
Inter Miami didn't go up a lot in that first half, right? And Tata earned his plaudits and the credit for a very good initial game plan. But as happens in all sports, especially in football, in the beautiful game, coaches adjust and they tweak and change the game plan. And that's what happened with Columbus down 1-0, especially when they went down 2-0. They had to become much more aggressive. Wilfred Nancy pushed the right buttons, replanteó su idea de buena manera. He changed the game plan in a good way, and it worked out for him. They didn't get hit on the counter with spaces in behind too often, and Inter Miami didn't generate a whole lot of clear-cut quality chances as Columbus pushed their lines forward. No, that did not happen. And that's where I think Tata Martino, adjusting his game plan, reacting to what was in front of him, he did not. He reacted too late instead of anticipating the change. Él no replanteó el partido. He left the game as is, right? He didn't come up with a different game plan. And that's where the in-game management, Wilfred Nancy deserves credit, but I think Tata Martino blew this one. And there's reasons why. We will talk about the reasons why and the overarching themes. Andrea was already trying to get there. We'll get there in a moment. But for me, Inter Miami blew this game. 2-0 on the road. Like, Inter Miami is not un equipo de tabla para abajo, like media tabla para abajo. They're not a team that's like middle of the table down and they got to a fortunate 2-0 lead and they have to park the bus to try to see it out. Like, Inter Miami has enough quality to see that out, to see a 2-0 lead. If I would have told you guys before this game, Inter Miami's up 2-0 in the 65th minute, do you bet on them seeing that through? You would probably give them a good chance of seeing that through. Yeah. You wouldn't be like, no, there's no way they're not seeing that through. The fact that they did not see that through, for me, a large part of it falls on Tata Martino. And
I think it all falls on him.
Well, absolutely. A lot of it falls on him. A lot of it falls because to me,
and it's repeating the same things. It's repeating the same things. We're talking about the same thing. He did changes until the 80th minute, like the game in Monterrey. It's always the same thing.
Red card. Andrea, we will get there. Let's give Tata Martino a chance to defend himself. Because I asked him after the game about the late subs. You asked him about the season, but let's hear his overall thoughts on the match because he talked about 65 brilliant minutes and then not so much after that.
No, la realidad es que yo creo que hicimos 65 minutos brillantes, donde inclusive pudimos hacer el tercer gol. Y en 10 minutos que tuvimos de cierto desconcierto, creo que al revés, no fue por meternos atrás, sino a veces por querer presionar alto cuando a lo mejor no estábamos en condiciones de hacerlo. Ellos nos salieron rápido, encontraron el descuento, rápidamente encontraron el 2 contra 2. En los 3 goles hay futbolistas nuestros corriendo de cara hacia nuestro arco, con lo cual no observo una posición diferente a la que intentamos tener todo el partido, ¿no? Inclusive cuando se pusieron 3-2, tuvimos 2 situaciones muy claras de gol, pero la verdad es que estoy muy triste por el resultado, porque creo que es muy poco lo que nos llevamos para el partido que hicimos y contra el rival que jugamos.
So to summarize very quickly for the people that don't speak Spanish, don't understand Spanish, I mean, I'm not going to go through a minute and whatever change that was of a quote, of a soundbite, but he said he was, at the end, he said he was very upset with the result because he did not think Inter Miami deserved the result like that, given that they had played for him a pretty good game overall, especially a brilliant first 65 minutes. Jose, I already can tell by that squint that you do not agree with Tata's assessment. I listen. I agree. The first half was very good. From a tactical standpoint, it was very good. Not necessarily from a free-flowing football display was it amazing. No, but in terms of playing a smart game, limiting your opponent, and having a lead because you took your chance that you did get. I mean, that was well done from Inter Miami. And clearly, that was their game plan. They came out. We haven't talked about this. They came out in a 5-3-2, and Noah Allen and Yannick Bright were the two introductions to the lineup, right, in the 5-3-2. Matias Rojas played up top with Luis Suarez, but with those two players, Yannick Bright and Noah Allen, you could see Inter Miami is going to take a more defensive posture. It's pretty clear that they're playing with the back five. That's what happens. Sergio Busquets was the sweeper in the back five. Tomas Avila's playing as the right center back. Noah Allen as the left center back. So Inter Miami was planning to be defensive minded. They were going to cede possession to the Columbus Crew and hope to do what they did in that first half. And they did a very good job of it.
Yeah.
But like you said, when Wilfred Nancy adjusted his game plan, Tata Martino stuck with what he thought was working, but then it stopped working because the Columbus Crew found the spaces, started overwhelming Inter Miami's defense and midfield, and then there just wasn't a reaction nor from the players nor from the coaching staff. And again, that's why for me, and I think for all three of us here, and for many people in the comment section, as you just going through the comments here, a lot of people put this one on Tata. We will get there, Andrea. Don't worry. I will give you your chance to talk about the Monterrey game. We will spit fire at each other over that game. But
same excuses, Tata Martino. Same excuses.
But we'll focus on this game for a little bit longer. What could Tata have done differently? Right? If we're going to say he could have changed something, what could Tata have done differently in this game? I think you touched on Luis Suarez, or Andrea touched on Luis Suarez. What could he have done differently to try to help slow down that Columbus Crew attack that started overwhelming that Inter Miami midfield defense?
First off, I think we should clear the air that it is obviously a lot easier to talk about it now than what it was for Tata to make the decision at the moment, right? But this is our job,
That's his job. His job is to get paid to read the game, my friend.
After he saw the first ball that Luis Suarez missed in the first half, after he was put in a good position, he should have subbed him at the end of the first half, man.
Right. We saw everything how it happened. We saw everything how it happened, and we saw it from our TV, from our couches. Fine. I think that is fair game to clear the air for that. But personally, I always thought that Luis Suarez, this was not a good game for him. I think he was good with the ball, but there was another side to this game for the striker, for the number 9, and the other side to the game was that that player in particular also needed to play defense throughout the full 90 minutes. And it is unfair to ask Luis Suarez to play both roles in this type of game. So I think that's the first mistake from Tata. And after he notices how much Suarez ran without the ball in the first 45 minutes, I think he should have made the decision to bring Campana. Because we know Campana can give you the extra mile. So I think that's the first mistake. At least acknowledge that, at the latest, the 60th minute mark, it was time to let Campana play a role in this game. And then, it was surprising to me that after the first goal, and we all got a sense watching on our TV sets that, Columbus, they were coming at Inter Miami. So at that point, it was surprising to me that a very South American team didn't use a little bit 5% of the South American or Latin American antics to slow the game down. Waste some time, bring a sub or two, do something to stop the momentum from Columbus. And Inter Miami They just waited and waited and waited for the second goal to come, for the third goal to come, and then Tata Martino did react. For me, it was obvious what he needed to do. Move away from the five-man backline and go to your traditional setup. You had Robert Taylor. You had opportunities to defend with the ball. You didn't have to set back and just wait for Columbus. If you're a good enough team to win this league, if you're a good enough to beat Columbus Crew, I think you can compete for 25 to 30 minutes.
Agree.
Go at them. Don't let them come to you. Go at them. Bring Robert Taylor, have Campana run, be offensive minded. Switch the role immediately. You had enough on the field to do it, and Tata Martino decided to hold on,
What?
to wait a little bit, and this is what happened.
What? And I want to hear Andrea's take because she's agreeing with you. Jose, we can sit here and people in the comment section can sit there and disagree with Tata's defensive-minded game plan from the start. But I cannot sit here and say that after 65 minutes, when they were up 2-0 and it was working, that then they should go attack-minded. Why open yourself up? Why would you open yourself up 2-0? Why would you open yourself
not
up?
a good advantage to have.
Correct.
You need to close a game. And
Correct.
when you have the team that Inter Miami has, he needed to make changes, as Jose is saying, to bring Campana. And as I said from the beginning, to bring Campana, to bring Robert Taylor, because that's why they are in first place in the league. So it is what it is. He tried to keep the team playing exactly the same with that back five that didn't work. From that moment on, it didn't work.
I agree with you that they should have changed something. I don't agree with Jose's premise that they should have opened themselves up and left spaces in behind. I don't agree with that. That doesn't make sense to me. There's no consistency there in the game plan. And if you're going to be defensive-minded for 65 minutes, it works, you're up 2-0, and then you want to open yourself up so that the other team can attack you more and give you these spaces in behind.
Once they were down by a goal, they did it. And did you complain about it?
No.
It was their obvious choice, right? To do it once you're down a goal
they
in an
fresh
elimination
legs.
game.
They needed
fresh legs. You kind of have to do it there. So
they needed fresh legs. I give you Luis Suarez. I give you Luis Suarez for Campana because Campana brings in fresher legs. He can press more. He can run around.
Why didn't you bring Robert Taylor for Matias Rojas?
Right. So there you go. Why did Julian Gressel? Because Julian Gressel was the one substitution before the 80th minute who came in for Matias Rojas. Now, Jose and I, and even Andrea, but Jose and I especially in the press box, we joke a lot about how the other day I asked you, Jose, I was like, when everybody's healthy, including Lionel Messi, who is the first player in the lineup that Tata Martino writes down? And obviously, everyone would think Lionel Messi, but our joke was that Julian Gressel actually gets the nod over Lionel Messi because of how much Tata Martino rates him. Well, he got benched in this one. He did not start, but he was the first player that Tata Martino turned to. And obviously, Julian Gressel, for the assists he has this season, for the stuff he has delivered for the team, he's not a very attack-minded player. So that clearly shows that Gressel replacing Rojas was a defensive-minded change. It was a change to try to keep Inter Miami grinding this one out, which I don't disagree with, but I think there needed to be more. Campana for Suarez is
so you
one.
Agree with Jose?
Cremaski for Gomez, potentially another one, just to get some fresh legs out there to help close this game out.
Gomez was having a very good game.
But the game at that point, you don't need to attack. At that point, you don't need to attack. It doesn't have to be pretty. If you grind it out, if it's ugly, si tienes que sufrir por 25 minutos, but you suffer and you get through, then guess what? You're a genius. But they did not do that. I agree with both of you fully that Tata Martino should have made more changes than he did. But I don't think it should have been to open themselves up. I think he should have stuck with his game plan, but started moving pieces around within that game plan.
It was not about opening up. It was more about attacking. Okay, if I'm going to go down,
that's opening up. If you're attacking, you open yourself up, Jose. If you push numbers forward, you leave space behind.
Yeah, but you're thinking it from the defensive standpoint. I'm thinking it from the attacking standpoint. I want to attack. I want to put pressure on them. I want to let them know that, yes, if they're going to come at me, I'm going to have enough to attack. And Columbus, they were pretty clear. Once Nancy figured things out, they knew exactly what they needed to do. So if you're demanding Tata Martino to react after what Wilfred Nancy did during halftime, just replacing player by player in the same position, the same tactics, that's not the reaction that you would expect from a head coach like Tata Martino. You would expect him to go back to what works for Inter Miami throughout the entire season. The
Yes.
only reason why Inter Miami is standing at first place is because they moved away from the five-man backline, which we all know it has never worked. It probably worked one time against Orlando, I think. That was the lone game that it did work. But other than that, the five-man backline never worked. And once Inter Miami was not able to put high pressure on Columbus, which, it's something that we should expect because that's a very high demand tactic physically. There's not a lot of teams in the world that can actually high pressure another team for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that shouldn't be completely unexpected. So listen, I would like to see my team, if I'm a head coach, I don't want to die just holding on to everybody by each other's hands when I have
But that's
a first
stylistic.
team play.
That's stylistic. We're not talking about what we prefer.
But you're a first team. If you're in first team in the league and you're playing another MLS opponent, then I think
this is not MLS.
Or at least try to set the tone.
These are two MLS teams playing in the League's Cup, which whatever we can talk about what the League's Cup is, whatever. It is a knockout round game. You are up 2-0 on the road. What got you to that point is working to that point. I don't agree that you should then open up and be more
anymore, Franco.
It was
not working.
Once the first goal came,
it was not working at that point.
It didn't work. After the first goal, it didn't work, and Tata Martino didn't do anything.
Diego Gomez scores in the 62nd. So they're up 2-0. 5 minutes later comes the first goal.
At that point, it was not working. Mm-hmm. Even at the point where they scored the second goal, that doesn't mean the tactic
Columbus
is working.
Was coming. Yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean it is working. They scored a goal, but defensively, and they didn't have full control of the game at that point. Even when they had a 2-goal lead, they were not in control. It's not true that they played good 65 minutes.
They didn't want the possession of the ball.
First half, 45 minutes. The second half was all Columbus.
Before Columbus's goal, what chance did they create that left you being like, Inter Miami's in a little bit of trouble here? What chance did they create?
It's not about chances.
No, it is about chances because the other team can have the ball. Possession without production no significa nada. You can have the ball all you want, and if you don't do anything with it, then the defense is doing its job. There was no clear-cut chances before Columbus's first goal that led you to believe, like, Inter Miami's going to give this one away. It just wasn't there.
You can see it since the first minute from the second half. You could see that Columbus was coming.
Tony X is on my side.
Did they high pressure in the second half? Did they high pressure in the second half?
Sitting back and hitting on the counter isn't new. That's how they scored the second goal. And I agree with Tony X. U.S. men's national team, new commenter on YouTube, agrees with you, Jose. Although he said your name is Jose Armando.
As long as you agree with me, that's fine.
Jose Armando, you're correct with your analysis. I don't agree with that. But anyway, look, back to the point. Tata Martino needed to make changes. Whatever changes you think he should have made, we could all have a different opinion. Right. People in the comment section could all have a different opinion. It was clear that the team needed something differently, especially at 2-1. I think that's the most, for me, that's the most damning part for Tata in this game. That at 2-1, now you're starting to see Columbus getting back into it, momentum at home. Like you said, Luis Suarez at that point, probably done in terms of what he can give you. Yes, he's got that nose for goal, and all he needs is a half chance. But if you're defending, are you really going to get that half chance? I mean, you could. But, this is why the coaches get paid the big bucks to make the decisions that they need to make. And this is where we can go to the bigger picture about Tata Martino. Because we raise your hand here, comment section as well, if you think Tata Martino was the biggest culprit for Inter Miami losing this game and getting knocked out of the tournament. Andrea, okay, all right. So that's all three of us. All right. Now, we can go bigger picture. And Andrea, we will start with you because I know you were foaming at the mouth. So say your piece. But before you say your piece, I am not going to let you rewrite history. David Ruiz got a very costly red card in the first leg of the game against Monterrey.
Stop it with that. They got ridiculed in Monterrey, Franco. Please, don't rewrite history. Even if David wasn't sent off, they went and did nothing in Monterrey, and that was partly that you forgot. You can go on and listen to the podcast after the game in Monterrey. What we criticized Tata for, the same things that we criticize here. He didn't make any changes until the 80th minute after they were already losing 3-0.
He didn't make any changes in that game.
Yeah,
He
he
made no
made
substitutions in that game.
he
And
made
that's
changes at the 80th minute. So
that's the point.
Tata Martino has the same problems. He cannot do good changes in games that matter. It doesn't matter if the league, MLS has, I don't know how many games in a season. They all play with each other and they have 40,000 games in an MLS season. But if you, on the two games that matter, for your season to win trophies in your season and you have the same problems, we're having the same conversations. Why didn't Tata Martino make changes here? Why did he miss with the starting lineup? Why did he miss when he brought substitutes in? It's the idea, his ideas are not translating to the field in the two most important games of the season here, against Monterrey in Monterrey and against Columbus Crew in Columbus. Tata couldn't turn things around in neither of the two games. In neither of the two games. On the first game, they were losing 1-0, and he couldn't turn it around in the second half. He didn't make any changes. He kept the team playing the same. And here, he kept the team playing the same after Columbus did their three changes, and you could see that Columbus was playing differently at the beginning of the second half. He didn't bring anyone in. After the first goal, he brought a change, and he brought Julian Gressel, and that's where I agree with Jose. Why didn't he bring Robert Taylor in? Why didn't
because
he
was
add
not looking to
something for
go attack
he didn't what I mean is that he didn't change his idea. He didn't evolve. Like Wilfred Nancy knew that his idea to begin with was bad. He changed tactics and he changed his team. Tata Martino saw that his idea was not working anymore and he couldn't evolve. He couldn't offer anything else new. And that's the problem.
So the criticism is on Tata Martino's in-game adjustments, his in-game management. That's where the criticism is, because we talked about the beginning of the game and he had a very good game plan to start. Where he did not do a good job was adjusting to what was happening on the field. That's where he struggled in this one. By the way, if you're going to say that David Ruiz is not to blame for Monterrey, then the spirit of Wilson Palacios has come out of that jersey behind you and gone into your soul, because there is no way you're going to tell me that your fellow Honduran has no...
In Monterrey, David Ruiz didn't play.
Inter Miami was trailing in 2 ways. I'm not doing this. We're not revisiting an argument from months ago. Exactly. But he already put Inter Miami in a hole, down
Messi,
2-1,
Suarez,
needing an away goal.
Everyone playing in Monterrey and they were ridiculed. That's the fact.
They lost 3-1. They lost 3-1.
It's not a lie.
They lost 3-1.
But they looked worse. They looked amateur.
I will go to what you said, because I agree with you.
I won't lie to anybody, Franco. I won't lie. And the same thing, I did the same thing with Phil. And Phil had less personnel that he brought.
I'm sorry.
Tata has brought players. Let's talk about Marcelo Huerta.
No.
Another thing that I'm gonna ahorita, because you said that Marcelo Huerta was an upgrade from the Andre Yerli. Where is that upgrade? Where is that upgrade?
Come back to the point.
Where's that upgrade?
Come back to the point. This is the chance to talk about the overarching themes with Tata Martino. Okay? We can dissect other things
it's a tendency,
later on.
And listen, it's happened with Tata Martino in his whole career.
This is a good point.
His whole career, he has the same problems in Barcelona because he had an amazing bunch of players. He couldn't convert. He was fired.
So what you said is good. You said is good, Andrea. What you said is good with regards to, in my opinion, I agree with you. Then now we can talk about Tata's tendencies in the two biggest games of the year. In the two biggest games, when Inter Miami was in a do-or-die situation this year. Because the league games, you live to fight another day, win, lose, or draw. But these were the two biggest games. The Monterrey, the second leg, and this game against the Columbus Crew in the round of 16 in the League's Cup. Two biggest games for Inter Miami this season. If you want to argue, maybe you could say the first leg in Monterrey, or the first leg against Monterrey at home at Chase Stadium. That could be in the discussion for the top two games. But for me, those are the two biggest games of the year so far. And there is a tendency there. And you touched on it. In this game, he did not make a sub. Well, he made one sub, before the 80th minute. After the 80th minute, when Inter Miami was down 3-2, then came the changes because he was trying to find the tying goal. Against Monterrey in that second leg, he made no substitutions. 0. And this is, I think, an overlooked point, especially by most of mainstream media. I'm not going to say us, but most of the mainstream media. And I did not want to tweet this today because I wanted to have the discussion here with you guys. with our viewers, with our listeners, and then we can dive in on it in a little bit more detail, in the coming days and next week and whatever the rest holds for the season. If Tata Martino had only made one sub in this game, and it was for the player that Jose and I jokingly say is the first player in the lineup, which is Julian Gressel, and they made no subs against Monterrey in 2 do-or-die matches, that to me tells you that Tata Martino does not trust his bench. He does not trust the players that are not Luis Suarez, that are not Lionel Messi, that are not Sergio Busquets, that are not Jordi Alba, that are not Julian Gressel. He does not trust them to the same level that he trusts the players that he has out there. And that's why he does not make substitutions in these games. It's why he sticks with what he's got. You just said, why did Luis Suarez stay out there? I think we all agree he should have came out. Didn't serve much of a purpose at that point for a team that's trying to defend its lead. But he stayed on there. Why? Because Tata Martino's gambling and betting on the fact that if he has a chance or a half chance, he's going to put it away with his quality, and that's going to end the game. He's focusing on what could be on the offensive side with the player in a game plan that's defensive, as opposed to bringing in Campana, who can hustle, who can fight, who can scrap. So, again, Tata Martino, he doesn't trust his bench. We've talked about Campana. Campana's played when he's absolutely had to play, when Suarez needs a rest or when Suarez is not around. Who's playing in that midfield? David Ruiz, nothing to be seen. Benjamin Tremaski, he's back. He didn't come into this game until after it was 3-2. Tata does not trust that bench. Tata trusts his guys that he's brought in, Diego Gomez, who's, has been an incredible player this year. He trusts Matias Rojas. He trusts Julian Gressel. You could say that Noah Allen is, an example of the contrary because he started in this game and it was a big game. But I would say that Noah Allen started well because David Martinez was out with the red card. Right? If David Martinez was available, David Martinez would start. Tata Martino had no other choice. Or he had his back to the wall in terms of the options he had. For me, Tata Martino doesn't trust that bench. And that is what we've seen in the 2 decisive games. And I think that's the bigger overarching theme from these 2 games. And we will see it in if Tata adjusts or not. That's going to be very important for Inter Miami. If Tata adjusts or not.
I'll tell you guys what. I agree that against Columbus, he needed to make the right decisions, and he didn't. And he was not even close to that. But to compare that game and not making substitutions to the Monterrey game, especially in Monterrey, I don't think it translates. I'm going to give you guys names about the players that were available for Inter Miami in that Monterrey game. CJ Dos Santos, obviously the goalkeeper, not a big deal. Ryan Saylor, Benja Kremaski, Franco Negri, Yannick Bright, Lawson Sunderland, Schneider Borgelin, Leo Afonso, and the third goalkeeper, Cole Jensen. If you find a way at that point to put any of those guys in the game, and you can find a way to lead me to believe that they could actually change the game, I mean, you guys really should be coaching Inter Miami. I don't think those names could have changed.
You're all about names, Jose. You're all about names, and it's not about names. If you need some goals, you throw in whatever you've got on the bench, you throw that on because you think, okay, this is going to give me an upgrade, at least in energy levels.
Okay,
than what I've got
you need goals. You're telling me goals. All right, let's add up how many goals has Ryan Saylor, Benja Kremaski, Franco Negri, Yannick Bright, Lawson Sunderland, Schneider Borgelin, and Leo Afonso scored at this point in the season. I think that we don't get over 5.
So only
the entire group.
Put Pelé on the bench then because Pelé has 600 or whatever goals he has in his history. So he's better option than anybody else because of his track. Jose, it's not just about the quality that someone can bring in and the proven track record. If you have limited options, someone can still bring fresh legs. Goals aren't only scored because of someone having quality. Sometimes it's fresh legs that force an opposition into a mistake. It's just being able to out hustle someone to a ball and then score. Like it's not just because all goals are scored off of sheer quality, a la Lionel Messi or Luis Suarez.
You remember in that game with Monterrey, we criticized Tata because he was saying, "Oh, I didn't bring because the play exactly this that what Jose is saying that he didn't have the players that he wanted," and we had that whole discussion about the rules and the excuse he gave. But in that moment, we talked about how was after they were losing in the 78th minutes 3-0, how was the opportunity to bring those players like now Yannick Bright that he trusts a lot to get them international experience. He didn't do it in that moment. And for me, the criticism for Tata is that in defining moments, he cannot get it done. He cannot get it done. And he couldn't get it done in US Open Cup. He couldn't get it done against Monterrey. And he couldn't get it done against Columbus, having the difference that in both US Open Cup against Houston Dynamo and in Monterrey, that he had the advantage here. So, those other games he was losing since the beginning. But here he had the advantage, and he couldn't translate that to getting a win and to getting through. So that's a problem for Inter Miami, because I repeat, it doesn't matter that you win 70 MLS games in a season, because if in elimination games that you have had as a coach the year that you have here, you have lost them all. You lost the US Open Cup, you lost against Monterrey, and you lost now against Columbus. So that's not a great record, and it's something that needs to be talked about, because the common denominator in those 3 games is that Tata's tactics that have not been all the same in the 3 games, because they were different set of tactics for different moments, but those tactics haven't worked for Inter Miami, and that's
and I think that's the bottom line with Inter
the bottom
Miami
line, exactly,
is that they need to win titles.
Yes.
I think that's the bottom line.
That's for me the biggest criticism, because in games that count, they cannot be missing like this.
Okay. So, Jose, I want to hear you, but let's listen to Tata here, because you asked him the question in a very short post-game press conference, mind you. It has to be noted. If you haven't seen it, you can see it on Miami Total Football's YouTube page. It's there from last night. 3 questions were asked to Tata Martino, and that was it. That was the entire post-game press conference. Even he's a little surprised when he realizes that there's no more questions in the press conference. It's his eyes light up okay, that's it. And then he gets up and is all right, bueno, and he walks off. This was Tata Martino's response to Jose's question about what Jose just discussed, Inter Miami needing to win titles. Right? That is what this team was built for. That's what this team is going to be measured up against. Right now, they have 1 Leagues Cup trophy in a year that Tata Martino has been in charge of the team. I don't go as far as Andrea and say that you didn't say this, but you made it sound like it's been a complete failure this year. He's won 1 out of what?
4.
I won't count MLS Cup because the team was pretty much in
last year.
Okay, a year that he's been here, that Tata's been
but
here.
You cannot judge this team by the time that Tata has been here. This is not about Tata. This is about the team. So it's
Tata's team, Jose. It's Tata's team. They won the Leagues Cup.
Was last year.
They won that.
We already evaluated last year.
Correct.
And we took into account Leagues Cup. So we cannot hold on to that first title forever. It's a clean slate.
Jose, you're judging Tata's tenure. You're judging Tata's tenure. Now, we're not talking about just this season, but we're talking about Tata's tenure. In his tenure, he won 1 final, lost another one. The game against Monterrey, I didn't think Inter Miami was going to advance anyway. I never had them winning or thought they were even in contention to be a serious perennial contender in the Champions Cup. That just was my opinion. Leagues Cup, did they have a chance to go further? Yes, they could have gone further, especially if Messi had been healthy, but they didn't. I go back to what Andrea said. MLS Cup is going to matter. That's what's going to decide this season. If Inter Miami wins that, everyone will look back on this season not everyone. Most people, I don't know about you guys, but most people will look back on the season as a successful year if they win MLS Cup, if they get that star above their crest. If they don't, then it will be a complete failure of a season. And I think the knives will really come out for Tata Martino. I think right now the jury's still out as to whether he's done a good or bad job. And listen, Andrea, please do not ever compare Phil Neville to Tata Martino, because Tata Martino is a miles better head coach than Phil Neville. That is not,
I'm comparing not because of results, but the way that we criticized Phil Neville.
Because the team was trash when Phil Neville was around. The team was fighting at the bottom of the table. They jugaban a nada. They played next to nothing. They had no game plan. You didn't know what Inter Miami's identity was. With Tata, Inter Miami.
Do they have an identity now?
Yes, they have an identity.
What is their identity? Did you see it yesterday?
Yesterday, no. But they have an identity. Okay. That's why they're near the top of the table in the Eastern Conference standings.
But you didn't see it yesterday, right? I'm glad you admit it.
We did not see it yesterday, correct. But let's listen to Tata on the season. This was Jose's question. This was the response. It's a good clip. It's 1 minute and 40 seconds. We'll be back.
Bueno, esta historia de del éxito, del fracaso, de la falta de análisis de cada uno de los partidos para ver si el equipo evoluciona, si el equipo no evoluciona, eh, sí, es muy difícil de responder si uno lo mide estrictamente desde el resultado. Está claro que nosotros intentamos en todos los momentos y estando de diferente forma competir de igual a igual. Cuando uno observa cómo el equipo compite hoy contra Columbus, eh, la realidad es que uno no puede dejar de estar muy satisfechos por la forma en que podemos plantarnos en la casa del último campeón, en un equipo que también fue finalista de Conca Champions. Es decir, las realidades son diferentes. Nosotros éramos un equipo en aquella época con Monterrey, somos un equipo diferente hoy, aún en la derrota. Después seguramente intentaremos también competir y seguir intentando alcanzar algún título en la liga local, que es lo que queda. Pero yo, es decir, no puedo aceptar que se mida todo esto en función a si ganaste o perdiste. Yo lo acepto porque son las reglas del juego, pero la verdad que mi análisis pasa por otro lado, ¿no?
We lost Andrea. I swear I did not kick her out. She just removed herself from the image for the time being. I don't know. Maybe she took a bathroom break. All right. Hold on. We'll wait till she comes back. I did not kick her out. I promise. Oh, there she goes. She's reappeared. Jose, it was your question, so I will let you have first dibs at his response. I think this is what you've been waiting for. This is where your bread and butter for this week's show is, I imagine, because I think we all three of us disagree wholeheartedly with Tata Martino's response. For those of you that don't speak Spanish, don't understand Spanish, the best way I can put that in paraphrasing is that Tata Martino says he accepts that he will be judged on, whether it'll be a success or a failure, whether they win titles. That's the name of the game, as he said, but that he views it different. That it's not necessarily just about that. Well, I think all three of us agree, and I would imagine most people in the comment section and most people out there would disagree with that statement, that is just spin Doctor Express because Inter Miami, this team will absolutely be judged on, like we said before, titles, winning, or losing. That is what will define the team. This team wasn't built. All that money Jorge Mas spent was not paid just so that they could have marketing moments and, Messi in the Inter Miami jersey. And no, team was built, was constructed to win championships. They have one trophy, regardless of how much stock you put into it. They need more for this project in this era to be looked at as a complete success. So, Jose, the mic is yours.
No,
what do you
well,
think?
you mentioned Jorge Mas, and I think he should be the first person to disagree with Tata Martino because it was a great investment. And by the way, just a few days ago, Jorge Mas was talking about Inter Miami being one of the top 10 teams in the world. And I don't know how can that translate to Tata Martino thinking that, it's okay for his team to compete against Columbus on the road and that should be fine. I don't think that's the case. I think the first person that should be frustrated but what Tata said should be Jorge Mas because, obviously this team needs to win tournaments. My my thought process with asking this question to Tata was there needs to be at some point from the coaching staff and from the players an acknowledgement that it's okay to have Messi and to have a lot of followers on Instagram and to sell jerseys, but at the end of the day, this is about winning. And if they want to leave something behind for Inter Miami, the only thing that can really leave for this team, for the history, for the culture of this team is winning titles. 10, 15 years from now, if Inter Miami is not able to win MLS with Messi, that's what people are going to remember. They're not going to remember how many jerseys They were able to sell how many times they went to Gillette Stadium, and it was a sold out crowd. They are not that nobody's gonna remember that. And in true Inter Miami fans that have been left out, at least they deserve to celebrate at home. You know, one trophy. Something meaningful for this team. And I'm sorry, I know that for some people, Leagues Cup is the next big thing, but it isn't, right? I mean, I think we saw it this year what Leagues Cup really is. Last year, Leagues Cup was the homecoming for Messi. That was Messi's show, and he won it, and great.
The red carpet to his arrival.
Right.
La alfombra roja
Yes.
a su llegada, right?
But moving forward, I think it only took one more year to really understand what Leagues Cup really is. This year, Leagues Cup has been very disappointing, very, very disappointing. And so, what are the big titles that can Inter Miami play for? Champions Cup, they have already been eliminated from that, a Conca Champions, and obviously League Play, MLS, winning MLS Cup, not necessarily the Supporters Shield, which there's credit to that. I'm not gonna say there's no credit to that, but this is a team that's not built to win the Supporters Shield. This is a team that's
they're in it though. They're in it late in the they're in it later in the season than I think we thought they would be in it. I didn't expect them to be this high at this point in the year.
They will probably all they're required to win the Supporters Shield is to win against Cincinnati in the next game. They might be fine with it, depending on what Columbus can do, because I think they have 2 games.
Does Tata not deserve credit for that though, right? We criticized him for football.
He deserves credit for that. Yes, he absolutely deserves credit. But when given that opportunity, and when asked that question about whether winning the league this year really can salvage this year for him, I think that would have been an opportunity for him to say, yes, you know what? We have to go for it. There's no doubt about it.
What does that lack of a response tell you? Or what does it say to you?
It disappoints me, but I think
like there's doubt in him, pressure. I feel like there's doubt in him. I feel like there's doubt in him that they're going to get this done.
Yeah,
you know what I think? You know what I think it comes down to? And this is just my supposition. That's what I think it comes down to. It comes down to Messi's health, because he's not sure as to what Messi they will get and how much they will get of him the rest of the way. Because if Messi was healthy, I think you get a more adamant response. I think you get a more defiant response from Tata Martino saying, we are going to gun for the MLS Cup. That's what all we've got left to fight for. We're going to go all in. I think that would have been more likely his response. Maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't have been. But that's just what the sensation I have taking away from his response. Because I agree with you. It seemed very weird, very strange, not normal, abnormal for a head coach who's coached at very high levels, Argentina's national team, Barcelona, to say, well, I understand that I will be judged on success or failure on whether we win or don't, but I view it differently.
He should have said, we're going. When a team usually gets eliminated and they have still a tournament, what a coach normally says is, no, we're going to go to win MLS Cup. Vamos a ganar la MLS. Vamos a ir
they
con
have
todo.
No other choice.
And,
they have no other choice.
He didn't say that. And I think we agree that it's in partly because he doesn't know Messi's status and he doesn't know how much Messi.
He's bracing for the possibility of it not happening because Messi, again, my read into it, he's preparing the possibility of it not happening because Messi may not be available to deliver those moments of magic that he's capable of. And if Inter Miami falls short, then he's trying to manage those expectations because that's what he thinks.
And that's how I perceive it. Yes, and that's a talk that we had in the press conference before this game. You remember against Cincinnati when I asked him, like, competing, and he said that Inter Miami was not a top 3 team in the league. So I asked him during the press conference before this game, and he said the same thing. And listen, what he said in that press conference, I agree, because for them to be a top 3 team, they have to show it for a whole year. And I think he knows, and he was very honest with that. He knows that they still haven't done it.
But they are a top team.
Yeah, they are a top team. The standings say so, but
and credit to him, by the way.
And he doesn't think that by his response, I think he doesn't think that they have shown it enough for them to be considered a three teams. Like he said, he gave the example of Columbus and he gave the example of LAFC, that they were always fighting in each tournament that they played in, CONCACAF, in Leagues Cup, US Open Cup, whatever. But Inter Miami hasn't done that consistently. So I think he's thinking about that. But I think the Messi situation, Messi's injuries, that we still don't know when he's coming back, and that's a big cloud on Tata Martino, because it's not the same. Like we used to sit here and laugh that it's not the same when you have Messi on this league for MLS, or with any MLS team. If you have Messi, you're completely the favorite. If they don't
But
have
I won't
Messi,
take that excuse though.
they are not favorites. Yeah,
Obviously,
I know
with Messi,
it sounds like an excuse, but it's reality, Jose, because even
Yeah, but
Messi
obviously
at
with
36,
Messi-
Hold on.
37
One second.
years
Question
old,
for you guys. And I'll go into what Host is asking. If Inter Miami wins the Supporters Shield, right? They continue on a good path in regular season play, with or without Messi. They win the Supporters Shield, but they fall short in the playoffs. They do not win MLS Cup. Is that a successful season?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
I agree. No. If they don't win the Supporters Shield, if they finish second or they finish third, or let's say they fall down to fifth during this last part of the season and they just make the playoffs, but they win MLS Cup, is that a successful season? Yes. Yes, absolutely yes.
I wouldn't call it a successful season, but I will have nothing to complain about. Let's just put it that way. I think it would be an okay season.
Okay season to win MLS Cup. My
Yes.
goodness.
Because in Champions Cup,
I didn't expect them to win. I don't know why you thought they were going to win Champions Cup. I don't understand why you thought that they should have won Champions Cup. That you thought that they had
won Messi if they would have planned a real preseason and they wouldn't have gone for the money, then they would have been able to compete with Messi against Monterrey. So that's a mistake that they will have to carry on throughout the rest of the year.
That's an opinion. That's an opinion. That's an
no,
opinion.
that's a fact.
That's
Franco,
not a fact.
because
That's not a
of
fact.
course. Do you think that Real Madrid
Monterrey
can win the Copa del Rey, but if they don't win the Champions League, do you think it's a successful season? It isn't. It isn't. And it will be good because Inter Miami will win their first title, but it won't be a successful season.
Look, if David Ruiz doesn't get the red card and Toto Villas doesn't make that mistake in that first leg, I think there's still a series with Messi coming back. There's still a series.
Absolutely. I mean, but they wouldn't be the favorites going into Monterrey. They might not
be the favorites, but they had a chance and they didn't win it. At the end of the day, and this is another thing that I said to Tata
and
last
Columbus
night,
are champions and got to the final of the CONCACAF.
Nobody's going to remember the circumstances. Nobody's going to remember the circumstances. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going to remember, at one point during the tournament that you went out. Did you make it to the final? No, that's not the case. So if Inter Miami was to lose the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup and win MLS, yeah, I can say that you made it to the final.
Columbus.
Fine, that's a good year for you. You made it to the final. But they were not even close to the final in Champions Cup, and they were not even close to the final in Leagues Cup, which are the two tournaments.
It would be an okay season, an acceptable season for me, but it wouldn't be as successful.
It would be a successful. If you win MLS Cup at the end of the year, you are the champion of the league, something Inter Miami has never accomplished before in its short history. That will be a successful season. And then that will bode well for Tata Martino's tenure and how we look back on it.
But I think even Tata Martino will stay, even if he doesn't win any titles this year.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Oh my
I don't know about that.
Please.
If he does not win,
if he does
not win MLS Cup,
unless Xavi picks up the phone and calls Messi and tells him, "Hey, listen, I'm available. If you want me to go to Miami, we can have a final season together, no problem." Then
no way.
That might be even worse for Tata Martino than losing all three.
If Tata Martino does not win MLS Cup this year, I'm not saying he gets fired, but I think it's a very serious conversation. I think it's a very serious conversation.
Who's going to go over Messi? Who's going to go over Messi?
Dude, they can figure that out. Messi will get handpick whatever coach he wants that's available. Go find Pep. Go find whatever you want. Messi will place the phone call. Whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Ya Franco se le está pegando lo de Jorge Mat diciendo que Inter Miami es top 10 del mundo.
Tata's not the only option here that Messi would be like, okay, I'll take him as my coach. If he doesn't win MLS Cup, I think there's serious conversations. I'm not saying he gets fired, but I think there's serious conversations about his future. I think he needs to win something of note this year. That's MLS Cup. You finish the year with that trophy. You finish with that star. You finish with that photo of Messi hoisting the trophy. then that's a successful season. That's a successful finish to a year that wasn't an overwhelming success, but I would deem that a success. But we've talked about that before.
I think we're close enough. Not an overwhelming success, and us telling you it's an okay season. We're not that far away.
But what I think, and we can start rounding out the show with this, what I think is going to come down to is, of course, Messi's health, Andrea. Of course, if he's available, he's healthy, that boosts Inter Miami's chances of winning MLS Cup tremendously. But I also think it's going to be how Tata adjusts to his mistakes, his errors, like he did in Atlanta. The first year at Atlanta, they played tremendous football. And they were one of the favorites in the playoffs. They got knocked out, if I'm not mistaken, by the Columbus Crew. If I'm not mistaken, I think on penalty kicks. I think Zach Steffen. If I'm not mistaken, this is years ago now. But Atlanta United was knocked out in the playoffs. The second year, he became a little more pragmatic. Not fully, but a little more pragmatic when it came to the playoff time. Started playing with that back five, looking to hit on the counter with Miguel Almiron, Joseph Martinez. He tweaked the way he approached things. And I think that is going to be what he needs to learn from these two decisive games that we've talked about. The second leg against Monterrey, and then this game against the Columbus Crew. He's got to find ways to make better in-game decisions or to find a way to trust that bench a little more. We will share this last soundbite from him when I asked him about why he did not make any subs, or why he only made one sub, I only made one sub before the 80th minute, and that was, again, Julian Gressel, su preferido, one of his preferred players on this roster for Matías Rojas. Eso es Tata Martino's answer.
Bueno, porque no lo interpreté de esa manera, no, en ningún caso entendí que era un partido que nosotros debíamos modificar. Sí, acudimos a Julian, creo que en el minuto 67 o 66, por ahí, porque Matías estaba cansado, nosotros estábamos bien, nos sentíamos cómodos con el partido que estábamos jugando, con el desarrollo. No entendí que había que modificar. Cuando entendí que había que modificar en un momento, y específicamente ahí, empezamos a hacerlo. No daba muestras el equipo de necesitar ningún tipo de cambio cuando tenía controlado el partido. De la misma manera que sí necesitó Columbus hacer 3 cambios juntos en el entretiempo, porque el partido no lo estaba controlando. E inclusive, aún con los 3 cambios, nosotros pudimos ponernos 2-0 y 3-0. Cuando uno analiza 10 minutos de partido, evidentemente puede encontrar falencia. A mí me gusta analizar los 90 y ahí no encuentro demasiadas falencias del equipo que hubieran ameritado que en algún momento hayamos tenido que cambiar.
Long story short, he did not agree that the game was calling for him to make more substitutions, that he didn't see that he did not think the game warranted modifications. Columbus wasn't generating a whole lot.
He just didn't have a good read on the game then.
I agree.
Yeah, he didn't
That-
that's I was going to say that's what
And that's not only on him,
comprueba
by the
what
way.
we've been saying, that he didn't read the game well. He couldn't adapt.
I think that's on the entire coaching staff. Not only
Yeah.
on
True.
him.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Okay, Franco, let's talk about the players. Let's talk about the players also, because
She wants to
been
talk about Cello. Here you go.
we've been talking
She
about
wants
the
to talk about
responsibility
Cello.
of the
I
coach.
already know.
I just wanna come here and get my
We're on the
dues, man,
same boat,
because
just so you know, Franco. We're on the same boat.
these two persons that I have in front of me here were saying that Marcelo Vega was an upgrade to DeAndre Yedlin. After not only the performance yesterday, but the whole performance that Marcelo Vega has had, do you really still believe, Franco, that this was an upgrade to DeAndre Yedlin?
Yes, I believe he's still an upgrade.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
do not.
Is he an overwhelming upgrade? No. Is he an obvious upgrade? No, because he's not an aesthetically pleasing player. He pops out at you. Yedlin can make those 50-yard, when he's motivated and he's engaged, he makes 40-yard sprints, cuts a whole bunch of distance, and makes a slide tackle that makes you go, ooh, and lifts you out of your seat. Cello Weigand isn't doing that for you. But Cello Weigand technically is a more sound player. Positionally, takes up better spots. Now, this game was, again, I'm not saying he is
For
Sergio
me,
Ramos when
it's
Sergio Ramos was the right back.
one of the
national team,
biggest
but
mistakes
he's
that
not good.
Inter Miami has done, and not only concerning to the game, but for leadership, because I didn't see a leader for Inter Miami after Columbus went up in this game. I didn't see a leader. Someone that rattled the team, that got them in a huddle and
That's
talked
fair.
to them and hyped them up. That
That's fair.
didn't exist. That
That's
didn't
fair.
exist. So for me, that the biggest mistake for me this season is letting Yelling go to bring Marcelo Waitman,
The
because
biggest mistake.
the team doesn't have leaders, and in the field for me is not a big upgrade.
I think that's a fair point to make. You know, that maybe Inter Miami lacks a little bit in that leadership department. Yes, they have gran referentes. They have, big figures, big names, but are they leaders in that locker room that's, rallying the troops around them? That's a good question to ask, because I don't listen. I mean, Drake Callender is like the second captain, right? He gets the armband when Messi's not around. I mean, I don't really see Drake Callender as a leader in this team. Is he more of a vocal presence now because he's been here a few years? He's a starter, sure, but I don't see him as being someone that the younger players, the Spanish-speaking players are going to for advice, or I just don't see that.
I think Jordi Alba.
But you can see after each Columbus goals, you can. I agree. Like Jordi Alba could take that place, but you can see after the faces that, for example, see the faces of the other players. Watch the 3 Columbus goals yesterday and see the faces of each of the other players, and especially that second goal that Marcelo Weigand.
I like Jose's shout.
See the faces of the players and see who's rallying them.
Well, who do you turn to?
No one. There's no one. No one. Jordi Alba is fighting and saying that. No one went to Marcelo Weigand and said, "Come on, man, let's go. Forget about it and let's move forward." No one.
Okay. Listen. Just to argue your point, just to give you your kicks here, Andrea. Chelo Weigand did not have a good game, especially in that second half.
No, but it's not about that. It's about
no, you let's talk about the players.
I moved on from the point.
You said let's talk about the players.
The leadership. There's no leadership, and that's something this team is missing.
He was to blame on one goal. Chelo Weigand was to blame on one goal. Drake Callender is also to blame on that third goal. Doesn't come off his line, just stays rooted to the near post. He could have done a better job of coming off his line to try to close the shot for Diego Rossi, and he doesn't do that. If we want to nitpick different players' performances and their errors that they made yesterday, we could, absolutely. It's not 100% on Tata Martino, but I think those individual mistakes, those errors, come because of Tata Martino's inability to properly read the game and make the in-game adjustments, as we said at the start of the show. I think that's the biggest issue. But I think that's going to be key for Inter Miami in the playoffs. Whether Messi's around or not,
doesn't have a leadership. The team doesn't rally up when they are losing. The team almost.
They don't have a leader. With Messi out, they don't have a leader. I do agree with Jose. Jordi Alba could be that guy. I think he has
he should step up. I agree with that.
I think he has the demeanor.
It's something that I noticed yesterday, that there was no one like, okay, they scored. Come on, since the first goal, it all went downhill from there, and they didn't motivate. I didn't see that, and it's something to see, because when a team gets thrown adversity at them, they should be able to move forward.
Skrilla in the comment section says, "I don't think Callender will be here next year. He's going to get traded to San Diego, where he's from." Luis, I think this is a first-time commenter. I like Drake, but his sharpness has dropped this season. Francisco Garcia disagrees with Jose, and I says Alba is too.
Yeah, that is what I was centered to say. When you see that goal, he's just fighting instead of saying to Marcelo, like, "Oh man, whatever, let's move on." He's fighting, like, rah, rah, and giving instructions.
It's true. Yes. It's true that he gets takes it a little overboard. He gets carried away sometimes, and he gets a little too rowdy. But I do think he has the players that are out there. I do think he has the personality to be that type of captain, that type of figurehead that young players will respect. People that the Spanish-speaking players will turn to, that they can come to in the locker room. I think he has the makings to be that. And maybe I agree with you that there could be a leadership void in this team. I do agree with you on that fully. fully. When Messi not there, because when Messi's there, everybody turns to him. Everybody follows his lead. Even though
Yeah,
Messi's
he's a
not the
leader.
most,
Yeah.
even though he's not the most rah guy, they follow his
But he
example.
talks to the referee. Here you didn't see any of that, and it's something that I think we need to keep looking, because especially in a game like this, when you are up and then you get tired and then you go down, you didn't see is you didn't see in you
We're
didn't
go,
see it.
we're gonna go a little long today. Normally do a 110.
Argument is overblown.
We'll probably do 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. So we're gonna go a little long today.
But
But
the league, that is my point, Tony. The
Tony
league is one thing, but when matches are elimination matches, they don't
hold on,
have
so
any.
let's read it. Let's read. Yeah, see, this is the thing when you guys start reading comments. You guys just like mumble through them or just read them to yourselves, but you don't read them to the listeners who are not watching.
I have to come close to read it all.
Tony Axe says this whole leadership argument is overblown. The team has the most comebacks in league play without someone vocally rallying everyone. Tony Axe with a good counterpoint to our argument. What I would say to Tony Axe is because their quality just gets them through. Their sheer quality. Now, in games where they're playing teams that are more upper echelon, like them, more on par with them on a talent level, that's where that leadership void, you feel that or you see that. Mm-hmm. Because somebody else yesterday could have also on the field maybe instructed the teammates to wake up, snap out of it, commit the fouls that Jose was saying, maybe roll on the ground, take some time off the clock that way, start over-exaggerating, wasting time.
That was method.
Okay, so, I mean, if there was a true leader, there's different ways to go about it. And I do agree that I think that they do miss that. I do think they missed that a decent bit. Jose, you've been quiet there for a little bit, man. Do you agree with me? Just tell me you agree with me that whether Messi's there or not, an important factor in these playoffs that Inter Miami is bound to reach will be Tata Martino having a little more confidence in that bench. Tell me you agree with me. Tell me you agree with me. Because it's different, like you said, it's different in league play. You can bring on Leo Alfonso for 20 minutes against Toronto FC because you need a goal or whoever, the Chicago Fire or whoever. But in a do-or-die game, cuando las papas verdaderamente queman, that's where I think it shows who you trust and who you don't trust. And I think this game shows that he doesn't trust that bench.
I don't agree with you with the assessment that he doesn't trust his bench. I don't agree with that at all because...
Why? Tell me why.
Well, again, the Monterrey game, the second leg especially, I already told you guys why. And then last night, I just thought he was too stubborn to think that, he had a good game plan and that it was working and it would continue to work. And the moment that he acknowledged that it was not working and that he needed to change something was when they were down by a goal and there were 8 minutes left in the game. So, no, I don't think that's going to be a key component to them winning the league. I wouldn't give them the excuse. I wouldn't give them the excuse that if there's no Messi for the rest of the regular season, then expectations should fall.
But why do you think he trusts the bench? What leads you to believe that Tata Martino trusts that bench?
Well, I think if you look at most of the players available last night, they have had significant minutes. And Yannick Wright at some point was on that bench, and he's now a starter. So, there are... Noah Allen did start last night. And, the main reason why he was able to do that is because he has a center back, like Noah Allen, that can actually play.
Andrea just shivered when you said. I think you were shivering for something else, but she shivered as you said that. It's just perfect timing.
Yeah,
okay.
So I think most of the players he trusts. I think it's pretty clear that he trusts Benja. I mean, he really likes Benja. Although I think he's having a disappointing season for me.
Absolutely.
As of right now, he's having a very disappointing season.
Absolutely. Anything Andrea says is correct. That's it. End of story. That's from Mike B in the comment section. Jose, watch out, man. Jose, watch out. Andrea's a married woman, Mike B. And her husband is right there. Stop it. But Jose, no, listen. I think last night showed you. Tuesday night showed you.
He doesn't even... I agree with a certain point with you, Franco, because I don't think he trusts Campana, because as I was saying you in that moment in the first half that Luis Suarez got that ball and he couldn't run when he was alone and he couldn't run to get to the goal the Guatemalan goalkeeper Hagen, who he's the second goalkeeper. He couldn't run to get to Hagen. That was clear. It should have been clear to Tata Martino that he needed someone else, because if Campana gets that ball, at least he would have gotten that ball to make it dangerous to see to try to get a goal. He would have ran with the ball, but he didn't trust Campana to bring him in after the 45 minutes that Luis Suarez had. So I don't think he trusts his bench completely. I agree in that part with you.
Squirrel says Tata doesn't trust his bench. Franco's right. He only uses Bright and Allen because Martinez got a red card. Jose, think about it like this. Because you're the only one here on the panel saying that you think he does trust that bench. We've talked this year multiple times, not only about Campana starving for minutes. Recently, he's gotten minutes because Suarez was away for Copa America. But before that, he was pretty much starved of minutes. Robert Taylor, we've talked about, if it wasn't for Facundo Farias' injury, would he even still be on this team right now?
I agree.
So these are not his players, right? Those are not his players that are on the bench, a lot of them. So I don't think he trusts the players he trusts, in my opinion, are the players he has brought here,
right,
including the Cuatro Fantásticos, right? Those are the players he trusts. Federico Redondo, Diego Gomez, Tomas Aviles, the players he has handpicked and bringing here, those are the players he trusts. Julian Gresto, whether you agree with it or not, whatever, he trusts those players. He does not trust, I think. Yannick Bright maybe could be the exception. I don't even think he trusts
Ryan Saylor. That should have been your first name.
No.
That's a fact
Robert
that nobody
Taylor.
can ever debate
Robert Taylor, Campana, even Kremaski. I don't think he trusts him all that much. I think Yannick Bright.
David Ruiz and Kremaski are down in the pecking order with Tata Martino. He doesn't. Since the beginning, he was like.
No, I think he trusts David Ruiz. I mean, he gave him so many chances. And he still
when he didn't have his preferred options. Now he has preferred options.
Yes.
But I'm
that's going to make or break.
Have a point. I'm not ready to make that assessment.
I am. Listen, unless Messi comes back, is healthy the rest of the way, or for much of the rest of the way, and absolutely tears it up in the playoffs, it's going to come down to Tata Martino having a little more faith in that bench. If he does not, then Inter Miami is probably not going to make it. Now, if Messi comes back and he does his thing, then they can get by.
No. Remember, they're going to be playing, if they win the Supporters' Shield, and even if they don't, the worst case scenario, they finish in second place, they're going to have most of the schedule in the playoffs at home.
That's fine, we'll see.
So
but at some point, they are going to need somebody to step up from the bench. At some point, again, in a do-or-die game, they will need it, and that's what Tata Martino. Look, he bet on Suarez in this game instead of Campana, right? And towards the end, Suarez had an open look that you would, or at least a decent half look that you expect him to put away. That it could have been the tying goal, but he took one touch too many, and the chance went to waste. But that's what that
has a tough time taking out Suarez.
Because he trusts Suarez, because he thinks that even if si no te está rindiendo, right? Even if for 90 minutes he's not performing, then if he has one opportunity in front of goal, he'll be ruthless. Va a ser un asesino, el pistolero. He'll be who he is. He will use that jerarquía, that know-how to put the ball in the back. And that's what he bet on. That's what he bet on last night instead of betting on fresher legs. And that's why I'm saying I don't think he trusts that bench all that much, man. I don't think so. He talks a big game publicly and says all the players have stepped up. But I don't think he trusts that bench. When the cooking, or when the going gets tough, when the heat,
Las papas queman.
I'm trying to find a way to say it in English. I think last night was an example.
The potatoes burn.
All right, I look like a potato in this color. So,
I wanted to, Franco. We got a question today when you announced the podcast, and I wanted to get your opinion. The question is from Celine. She asked, what is the plan with the international roster spot? I think, Jose, you asked Tata Martino about this. Was it you or was it? I don't remember if it was you. Someone asked him.
Essentially, it was for Cesar Montes. And I mean, they haven't come out and said that publicly, but that's what it looked like it was going to be. And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Jose can fill us in with some details.
Yeah, well, it looks like, they did ask Montes earlier, and he was pretty clear about the fact that he wants to stay. Still, he wants to remain playing at a higher level with Almeria. So, You know, I think it comes down to a budget situation. You know, there's where it talks about 11 or 12 million that Almeria was asking for him. I don't know if that's where you want to go if you're into Miami. Plus, they still have an option with Nico Freire and see how he recovers. So, I think this is a situation where Inter Miami holds on to it and waits until the end of the year and see how it goes. They still have plenty of time. And again, like Tata believes that with David Martinez, they don't have the problem that they used to have once Nico Freire got injured earlier in the year. So it makes sense.
Two quick things to wrap up the show. Just very two quick things. You can't say more than two sentences because I think it deserves talking. We didn't get to touch on it because of the quick turnaround from last game to this game. But Jordi Alba had 4 direct assists in the win against Toronto in the round of 32. A magnificent performance from him. I think that deserves a shout out. I think he's been playing at a very good level this year. In addition to what we said about Jose and I thinking he could be, captain material, I think he deserves a shout because he's been playing very well this year. And that 4 assists, that was a Leagues Cup record. And I think it was the first time in his career that he did so as well. We'll listen to him very quickly, and then you guys can give me your quick thoughts on his level and that game that he had against Toronto FC.
Bueno, sí, ha sido el récord de asistencias. En el Barcelona tuve la suerte de dar 3 en un partido. Y hoy, aparte de las 4, he podido dar 2 más en la primera parte, sobre todo, que por poco no han sido gol y bien, contento. Al final soy un jugador que me gusta atacar, que me gusta repartir asistencias, lo he hecho toda mi vida y este año pues lo estoy haciendo también y bien, muy contento, por la aportación esa. Aparte que me encuentro muy bien dentro del equipo, muy a gusto aquí en Miami con toda la gente, o sea que muy feliz.
All right. I will say my piece, and I know Tata, I didn't know Tata had said in the press conference because we were in the mix zone, so I didn't know, but I did say it to him when I asked my question there, and Tata apparently had also said something similar. Jordi Alba es un 10 que juega de lateral. Jordi Alba is effectively a creative playmaker, a number 10. He just happens to play at left back. All right, that's all I'll say, and captain material. Jose, your thoughts?
No, I think he's having a very good season. I think not only because of his stats, but he has been able to stay on the field. So I will rate him really high. Obviously, thinking about the Cuatro Fantásticos, then I think he can compete with Messi and Suarez.
Interesting. That's a good exercise. Let's do we can do maybe next week. Los Cuatro Fantásticos in the pecking order from where they performed this season. Andrea, very quickly on Jordi Alba's 4 assist game against Toronto and his overall season.
Well, Jordi Alba just keeps showing that he could have stayed in Europe perfectly and found another team and played there at the highest level. He was playing in the national team before he got here. And I think it shows. It shows. Maybe his defending is not the same as it used to because his age, but his quality is there. And I think it shows a lot that he can make these connections with other players and not just Messi.
I don't remember that, Tony Axe, but if that's true,
I predicted
amazing.
Luis Suarez. I was saying Luis Suarez was fat and couldn't.
Tony Axe says, Andrea, we have to read the comment. I remember Andrea predicting that Alba would have the worst season at the start of this year. I don't remember that, but I'll take Tony Axe's word for it.
I said Suarez. The first time I saw Luis Suarez, I remember saying that I didn't think he would survive here.
I wanted to add in the positive element because I do think it was a big talking point from the last game. And obviously we're very critical, but I think it was also deserving to talk about something positive, even if it was only brief, even if it was only for a few seconds. Last thing I will ask you guys, and then we'll wrap up the show, because it'll kind of put a bow on redondear el tema, put a bow on the topic for this week's show. Tata Martino has been here about a little bit over a year. I want you to grade him through his first 12, 13 months here. A, B, C, D, or F. Up till this point.
I don't know those grades. Sorry, I didn't study here, so I don't know what those grades mean.
What do you mean? A, B, C, D, or F? That's it. The F is a failure. D
190, 80, 70, 60.
But no, don't give me a number.
100 is an A. 80 to 90 is a B.
No, 80 to 89 is a B.
Or
But
did he?
the number doesn't matter. Don't give me a number. Just give me a
always
letter.
got straight A's, so that's why I don't know anything below that.
Give me a number. Tank 721 says B minus.
I agree with Tank. B minus.
Yeah, I think he has, even though his faults, I think he has had some games and he's at the top of the table, and he's gotten a lot of players in, like Yannick Bright and players he's incorporated and chosen, like Federico Redondo and Diego Gomez, who are very good. So I think he deserves credit with that.
Sounds so different than what you said at the beginning of the show when you were comparing him to one Phil Neville.
No, I was comparing the criticism. If we criticize Phil harshly as we used to do, we should criticize Tata when he.
Tata deserves criticism. Tata deserves criticism, especially on this week's show, especially for the way this game played
That's
out.
what I meant. I wasn't comparing careers.
No way his criticism should be at the same level. Phil Neville had a team in last place. Yes, Tata Martino has a more talented team, but Tata Martino has won a trophy with that team, and two, kept that team up until this point in the top spot in the Eastern Conference, even when Messi was not around. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people had in mind. I didn't see that coming. I don't think any of us thought that was going to happen once Copa America started, that this team would continue to be competitive, but they have been.
For me, that's the greatest reason of his rating, because he kept the team going, even though they missed a lot, not only Messi, but Diego Gomez and other key players.
I will give him a B, teetering on B minus, but I'll give him a B just not so as to not copy Jose.
So B minus is 80, or what?
It's like just, I mean, C is passing, pero con la justas. Like you're just, like average.
Okay, yeah, an 80. I will give him a yeah, B minus.
He's passing, but that's what I'm saying. Teetering towards B minus because he needs to win another trophy. He needs to win another trophy.
Discriminate me.
He needs to win another trophy. All right, we'll leave it there. We went long, but I think it was a very good episode. A lot of heat, a lot of fire, a lot of candela, fuego. I had a good time on that one. All right, so I know Jose and Andrea have got to run. Jose probably has dinner to have. Andrea probably has to go find out her next defense for David Ruiz for next week's podcast. So we will leave it there. So for Jose, Armando, for Andrea, Yanis, I am Franco Panizo. We will be back next week, of course, to preview a very important game for Inter Miami in league play against FC Cincinnati. So we will do that at some point next week when our schedules align, hopefully. So for the three of us, you have been listening to Miami Total Futbol Radio. We will talk to you guys again next week. Thank you for listening and have a good